Today we're going to talk about the Warbonnet Blackbird Hammock, and this is a single person hammock rated for, I believe with the way I have it set up, about 250 pounds of person weight. And to start with, I'm going to show you how you set it up. So I always keep my tree straps on one side of the bag so that way I can locate them easily and just pull them out right away. So I'll start with the skinny tree, wrap this around, slide my end through, and if anybody ever has interest, I can go through what my particular setup for this hammock is as far as my suspension system goes. But once I start off with at least one of them hopefully set up, I put my whoopee sling, which I got that option with the hammock. And this is one of the really nice features of this hammock. Since it's got a double-ended bag, I can just pull it out and I don't have to let it touch the ground, although I will in a moment in order to be able to get this to work. Unless I'm really clever, or lucky rather. Yep, see, touching the ground. But as long as you're not letting it drag around and all that, that's not too bad. So while I'm doing this, I'm going to go through some of the things I think are benefits of using hammocks for camping. One, you may notice a lot of stuff underneath where I would be setting this up. And because of being a hammock, I'm not going to damage that. In the morning, if there was a bunch of grass underneath or these little small growth shoots, I'd be damaging all of them and causing havoc and problems for the nature of it I'm dealing with. But because this is the challenge of doing this with a larger tree. You have to find inventive ways to get your suspension around the tree. So for this, I route the suspension through the hammock, through the tree strap all the way, and then I'm set up well. So this is how you start off with this hammock. So this hammock has what's called suspension for helping keep it laid out nicely while you're sleeping. Oops, that wrong. So I will pull out one of them, and these essentially help keep the hammock spread out nicely so that while you are, there we go. So while you're camping, so while you're laying around, it is widespread and it gives you a nice amount of room, helps keep everything nice and taut. It works better when you've got it on here, by far, much better than when you don't. So this is a very nice plus of this hammock. It also helps keep extended what is called the little storage compartment on the side here. So right here, I'll put my hand in there so it's more obvious. So right here is a little place where you can put in your clothes or your shoes or whatever you have, your book, your e-reader, or your anything that you've got in there with you. And my tripod is having problems, so I'm trying to just get this to stay stable. So I'm going to pull on these whoopee slings. So these are essentially ropes that are high tension ropes that are embedded within each other, and the tension strength of one rope around the other, sort of Chinese finger trap style, helps with keeping everything nice and stable. I've never had one of these slip once I've set it up at night. And so all you have to do is just pull and it works. And so you essentially just work the work the whoopee slings in order to get everything nice and snug to where you want it. Now essentially what you end up doing is you want to have the hammock off the ground enough so that your feet are still touching comfortably if you're sitting like this, and that when you are inside, that I can bend the ridge line that comes inside a little bit, but not a huge amount. So another one of the really nice features of this is something I'm going to show you right now. You can take off this mosquito netting pretty quickly. Just gonna zip, and zip, and there it is on the other side. Now one thing that would be an improvement on this is to be able to unzip it more fully, or for this to have a little bit of give, because when you do this, and there's two little ties right here for helping hold it in place. I'll just do that lightly for a moment. When you do this, this still takes up a fair bit of your space of sky, which is really another one of the great things about being in a hammock. I get to just be able to see the sky. I can be engaged with the whole world. It's a very nice way of being able to be very integrated into nature while still having good protection in camping. Now, one of the challenges of hammock camping in general, I'd say, is you don't, even with a tarp and like good setup with that, you don't really feel like you've got good privacy for changing and just being by yourself, away from other people if they're around. If you're by yourself in the woods and there's nobody around, then it's not a problem. But if you're trying to be modest and not show off anything, it can be a little bit awkward, because sliding clothes on and off in here like this just sort of fights you a bit. One recommendation I'd make also is don't keep your shoes on when you get in and out of these, because the material is pretty much universally for these gathered end hammocks nylon that, you know, it's going to take only so much of a beating. So from experience, I'd also say for your hammock, unless you're someplace where there are no mosquitoes, which is less likely, because if you've got trees or places where you can, well, mostly trees are going to be your most frequent places to be able to put up a hammock, you're going to have problems with mosquitoes. So that's why this model is what I got with my first hammock several years ago. And one of the features that was very important to me was having this double wall bottom of the hammock. So this keeps mosquitoes from biting you through the material. This little sleeve is also made for being able to put in like a Thermarest inflatable pad, or like a foam pad, or anything you want to do in order to try to help make this more comfortable. Now, let's see. So this is the integrated ridge line. This is quite nice because you don't have to worry about trying to set one up like you would if you're tying up your own Eno hammock. You don't have to try to figure that out. In sleeping in this hammock, I found that the best place to sort of keep the zipper is somewhere a little bit south of just, well, somewhere around your mid-thigh. And the reason for that is because you can reach down while laying in it, and I'll demonstrate this actually. You can reach down while laying in the hammock and get to your mid-thigh pretty smoothly. So, zip it up to there. So, and essentially if I don't have the pull over there right now, otherwise this would be pulled out like this, nice and broad, a lot of room. And you want the ridgeline taut and those sides taut too, because it helps keep this top off of you. Otherwise it can feel pretty claustrophobic and you'll notice quick. But in any case, instead of having to push down the zipper all the way really far, or push both zippers around with it set up like this, I can just unzip a little bit, tuck my head, pull up my feet, and there we go. Nice and straightforward. So now I'm just going to show you how I would take it back down. So first, I start on this side. And it's very important to use tree hugger straps of some sort in order to help minimize the amount of damage that you do to any trees. Because if you just have the straight wire on the tree, it'll damage the bark, it hurts them, it causes accelerating damage pretty quickly to the trees. So a lot of times I'll just either put this in a pocket or just drop it on the ground. And in order to pack back up, you just start shoving. Don't be ginger with the forest floor. As you can see, this is pretty straightforward. Now, this isn't a tight stuffing stuff sack, so that's part of the trade. Like, it's easier to get this guy in here, but because of that, this isn't the most dense placement of this that you'd have in the universe otherwise in general. Make sure that's in shut. Yeah, that'll work. So this isn't the most dense packing you'd have to start with for everything. But that's all there is to that. And then I unhook the other end of my suspension. But make sure my lines get most of the way in. Now, part of what I always do is I always make sure to leave the ends of these out so that I can gather them up and hang them, or grab them and hang them very quickly when I'm setting everything up. So instead of having to parse around and try to fight and find stuff, I can just go. Now, part of what I did wrong here was I missed the two suspension. It is easier if you actually do it when you should, which is when you're at that part of the hammock. But there's no rolling it, there's no gathering everything up and laying it down carefully and folding and rolling like you would have to do with, every other tent in the universe, or most. And what I always do is I put toward my head end of the bag, of the hammock, I put in the tree hugger straps, just so that I know exactly where they're going to be, and keeps me from having to struggle to figure out which end is which, or changing cord colors, or cord lock colors, or anything like that. So there's no trickiness to it. I just know it's the end of the tree hugger straps. I take those out before I start anything. And then on this far side, I'll just make sure everything's nice and taken care of over here as well. Gather up all of its cordage. And just put it in. And that's all pretty straightforward. So on this hammock, I'd say I like its quality quite a bit. I've enjoyed it for multiple years, and it's held up. Now, one of the things I would say that you'd want, like a couple of things for improvement, you could use better shock cord on the side where the shelf that you keep in there is. The shelf is exceptionally useful. It's part of why this is my favorite hammock, even though I've got two at home, and the other one actually has some features that I like a bit more. Because I don't have any of the hanger bags inside of the hammock yet. Despite the fact that I've been using these for several years. The zipper on this has been buggy sooner than I would have expected. But nothing impossible to have keep working. The double walled bottom is essential and very handy. These guys also make quite a few digicam color schemes for their hammocks, which is great for anybody who likes to stealth camp, which is part of what hammocks are great to be useful for. And in overall summary, I'd say hammock camping would be great for a place where you've got uneven terrain, or where you're trying to have very minimal impact on the landscape. And I hope that this is useful for you, and I'll look forward to hearing from anybody if you have any questions or comments. Thanks. Bye.